Hello, my darlings, and welcome to the 24 days of Advent Adventure. Today, if I believe, is day 7. I know, one full week we're in. Well, we're going to do an anthology again, and the anthology I've chosen for today's segment is Silent Night by Scholastic. And that's your ISBN number on the back in case you want to get a copy for yourself. You can pick it up between £5 and £10, and it was first published in 2002, 22 years ago, when I was 26 years old and a first-time mum to my grown-up baby who's currently upstairs having a day off from nursing. Yes, so yeah, we're going to do Silent Night. We're going to do one of the stories out of here, and it is called Longship by Patrick Wood, and that was done in 2002, especially for this book. Okay, well, the premise of Longship. We're dealing with a terrible accident that happened at sea, where Captain Larsen mysteriously disappears from his ship, and it's witnessed by Mackey, who is a hardened drinker and an old seafarer and has been out with Captain Larsen on many an occasion in all weathers, and a young ship hand called Russ, who had sneaked out of school, sneaked out of his history lesson because it's the last week and they're going to break up for Christmas. And he basically wanted to go out and do some fishing and earn some money so that he can buy some Christmas presents, because young Russ really quite fancies being a fisherman. And he's learning from Captain Larsen, who's in his mid-50s, and it's his ship. And he just wants to go out at sea and have an adventure, I guess. Captain Larsen, he's a sensible man. He's a very sensible man. He's been at sea a very long time, and such a mysterious accident and a monster, no less. Very, very good story, very atmospheric. It's only a few pages long. It's really very, very short story. I mean, in this darling novel, the night is dark and silent, but you're not alone. And I do believe there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 short stories, and it's only a very thin book. In total, I don't think there's more than 200 pages. In fact, I don't even think there's that. 185 pages, 10 short stories, and you can knock this out in a night if you wanted to, but I've been enjoying them, so I've been doing one a night so that I don't, rush the book. It's quite nice, actually. It's refreshing to do a short story. And so yeah, it's 22 years old as my daughter. As I say, I was a young mum at 26 years old, and I'm an old mum at 48. I've learned a bit. Oh yes, I have. But I still enjoy a good Christmas horror. And that's exactly what you're going to get with this book. I'll read you the blurb on the back. Let these chilling tales fill the festive season with fear. Curl up somewhere quiet and find the ice creatures creeping through your bones. Journey through a winter's night to strange destinations. Revisit times long past and be grateful you don't have to stay. Look at your little sister's doll again and then turn her to face the wall. Be glad you're safe indoors. Well, you got a little introduction like that. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah, something nice, something to settle your mind before you go to sleep. Or is it? Well, getting back to the Longship and Captain Larsen disappearing. And Mackey and Russ are the only witnesses. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, terrible, terrible accident. Do you think they'll find Captain Mackey? What will he look like when they do? I know. There is a monster. It's stalking them. And a fog bank rolls in. And the ship that they're on, the Sheltie, starts making some very strange noises indeed. And with the oncoming fog bank that's rolling in comes something else, quite sinister. All that glitters is not gold. Bear that in mind when you're reading this one. Are you going to sell your soul for a pieces of 8? Captain Mackey might just have done that. I know. But to read you a little bit, because it is really good. The Longship by Patrick Wood. That's the monster. Afterwards, Mackey wouldn't even talk about it unless he got blind drunk. Must have been that fish that got him, he'd say then, the beer slopping in his glass as his hand trembled. Bloody great prehistoric thing. Must have chewed him to rags and swallowed him down. Sometimes he describes the screams or the clouds of blood in the churning water. I wish I could believe Mackey's lurid explanation, but in fact there had been no screams or blood. Mackey had been face down on the deck when Larsen went overboard. He hadn't seen it happen. I had. And I wasn't going to tell a soul, no matter how drunk I was. It had been still dark when I got to the quayside that cold December morning. Sorry, it's Christmas. That cold December morning. The storm had blown over and the sky prickled with stars. I strained my eyes to the east for the first grey smudge of dawn, but there was no sign of it. Out on the water, red and green navigation lights marked channels through the harbour. The dim shapes of boats at anchor rose and dipped with the swell. A sequin of coloured bulbs hung swaying from a pair of lamp-posts near me. In the choppy black water, their reflection looked like a submerged necklace of precious stones, writhing gently in the running tide. Larsen was already aboard the Sheltie. I could hear him banging around in the wheelhouse, making ready to put to sea. There were no other sounds except the clop of waves against the harbour walls and the clanking of wire rigging against the aluminium masts of the boats in the yacht club dock. It was too early even for the gulls. I lingered on the quay, enjoying the crisp feel of newly fallen snow beneath my boots. The air was cold enough to scrape the back of my throat with each breath I drew, and I was sure there would be another blizzard before the end of the week. A car door slammed somewhere behind me, and in a few seconds Mackey was at my side, already fumbling with the lid of his thermos. "All reet, Russ. What you gonna miss this morning?" "Double history." Mackey shrugged and thrust a plastic cup of steaming tea into my hands. "But you rather earn a bit of money for some Christmas presents, eh? Geetin' summat nice for your gran?" "Bottle of bells and a Barbara Cartland, and mackin' a fish mobile out of tinfoil for Mr. Scratch. Oh, aye, that's canny. I'm doing my best to do a Newcastleian accent, but unfortunately, I sound more Scottish. I do apologise. With a quick movement, Mackey dashed a slug from his hip flask into his own cup of tea. Medicinal purposes, he explained. The Shelties' engine clattered into life. A cloud of oily smoke drifted along the quay. "What you missing this morning?" Larsen demanded, as I jumped down beside him on Shelties' deck. "Double history, but we break up for Christmas day after tomorrow. No one's gonna care." I'm doing my best to sound more Scottish than Newcastleian. When Mackey joined us, Larsen swayed towards him and sniffed. "You been drinking already, Mac?" "Drinking?" Mackey looked astonished. "It's me antiseptic, man." He pointed at his face. "Doctor's orders. Mouth ulcer." Mouth ulcer. Larsen grunted. "Well, just watch your footing, that's all. Coming in after you to haul you out wouldn't be my idea of fun at this time of year." We cast off the Shelties' moorings, and the trawler nosed its way towards the harbour bar, Larsen at the wheel. "What's he talking about?" muttered Mackey. "I could hop around this boat blindfold." But I knew this was just bravado. Mackey would never say such a thing to the captain's face. He feared the big man's temper and his strength. After glancing over his shoulder to make sure he hadn't been heard, Mackey leaned closer towards me. "Look at this," he said. He reached into his oilskin coat and drew a red and green tinsel star halfway out of his pocket. "'Bout time this tub had a bit o' seasonal decoration." He slapped the Shelties' gunwale, then nodded back towards the wheelhouse. "And it might just cheer the old bugger up and all. What do you reckon?" Looking aft, I could just make out Larsen's face in the light from the Shelties' instrument panel. His thick brows were knotted into a frown as he stared out into the dark, and his big fist gripped the spokes of the wheel so tightly that the knuckles shone. "If I were you," I said, "I'd wait for the right moment before you ask him." We rounded the pier, and the wind bit into us. I crouched down to try and escape the worst of it, and my back against a coil of rope, hugging myself to keep warm. The cuffs of my rough sweater chafed the backs of my hands. Dawn was at last beginning to break as we passed St. Ninian's Point. I could just make out the ruins of the priory against the greying sky. Larsen leaned out of the wheelhouse, his beard blowing. "We're headed for Winchy Sands," he shouted. "Take us about half an hour. Teach the lads the mystery till we get there, Mac." Larsen didn't really care if I missed school to come fishing. He was different from the other fishermen, always doing things his own way, leaving earlier, coming back later, avoiding the usual fishing grounds to cast his nets in untried waters, possibly why he couldn't afford to be fussy about his crew. None of the other skippers I'd asked would take me out on a weekday. They talked about how I should think about my future and finish my schooling first, but they didn't really mean it. Round here there wasn't any future, at least not the kind where it makes much difference whether you finish school or not. Since they closed the pits and run the shipyards down, there's nothing to do up here but fish. Even that's not the living it was. There are quotas now because of diminishing stocks. It can take years to get a license for your own boat, and places on someone else's are almost impossible to find. And that's why I'm getting all the experience I can. And the money's useful too. Cash in hand, even if I do have to put up with Mackey's tall stories. And that, my darlings, is where I'm going to leave you, because I don't want to spoil this wonderful story for you. And it is very atmospheric, very short, beautifully written. Patrick Wood, you've done a blinder. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, Silent Night. You can get yourself a copy from Abbey Books. I think even Amazon have them in hard print. Also, Kindle. You might be able to find it on Kindle too. But anyway, my darlings, I hope you've enjoyed today. Yeah, no, day 7. How did we get here so quickly? Christmas will soon be with us, my darlings. But until then, well, you know what to do. Give us a thumbs up if you like what I've done, and if you really like what I've done, and done a terrible Newcastleian accent with a Scottish no, I don't know why. You can always give me a follow anyway. But thank you very much for tuning in, and yeah, thumbs up, hit that like button, and come back tomorrow for more terrifying Christmas tales. I should no doubt imagine I will bring you. Yeah. So thank you, my darlings. Happy readings and enjoy. And thank you for tuning in for day 7. Bye bye.